Today, participating on the closed session for city manager selection. And I also had the agenda review earlier in the week for closed session for city manager selection. And that's all I've got.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Nile.
Unmute yourself.
On September 24th, I attended a meeting to prepare for interviews for city manager. On September 29th, met with some of the people that are from KWW and talked about an initiative that is coming forth at our next election. And well, I skipped one on the 25th. I did a Zoom meeting about ADUs and the various things that the law and potential for them. On the first, we had a land use and natural resources meeting, a SACOG meeting, also talking about housing allotment or housing problems and availability or lack thereof. Second, I did interviews for city manager, and then again on the I think it was either Saturday evening or Sunday evening, I had a Zoom meeting with Shelley about tonight's meeting, and then today I helped interview for city manager at 12:30 until around 5. That's it. Okay, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Biasi.
Thank you, Mayor. Let's see, on September 16th, I attended the election work group meeting along with Councilmember Laura, and I don't know if she mentioned that. On the 18th of September, I attended the chamber board meeting. On the 24th, I was part of the Zoom meeting for the city manager candidate discussion with our executive search firm. On September 26th, I was a participant in the Youth Empowerment Summit put on by our county assessor, clerk, elections officer, Jesse Salinas. So we had a good discussion with youths from our local communities and how they can get involved in city government. To explain to them not to be afraid to come to a city council meeting and speak up if they have issues that they would like to speak up to, or just sit in on a council meeting to see how they go. On the 29th of September, I attended a meeting with some members of the Winners Downtown Business Association to try to see what options we might have to help our businesses downtown to be able to open up to more people. On the 30th, I had a phone call with Kurt Vlasic, the chair of the Winners Peter Creek Park Committee, discussing the future of the Creek Committee, and I plan on bringing that back as an agenda item either on our next meeting or the meeting after, so that the council can discuss on where we want to go. October 1st, we had another election work group meeting. October 2nd, along with all the rest of the council members, we held city manager interviews all day. On the 5th, I had an agenda review with the interim city manager and Mayor Cowan. And today, we had more interviews with city manager candidates. That's all I have to report.
Okay, thank you. On the 17th, I attended a meeting at the Olive Grove Project. And on the 18th, I met with the interim city manager and Marlene and Karen that we're going to hear from tonight to discuss the senior center. And then also on the 18th, I sat in on a call with the city manager and the city attorney, and
As mentioned, we were all on a Zoom call with Bobby Peckham to review city manager candidates on the 24th. And on the 1st, I attended a Zoom meeting for the Homelessness Commission for Yolo County. Then also on the 1st, I attended a Zoom meeting for the new animal shelter, JPA. And now that it's an official JPA, the Yolo County Chair of Supervisors, Gary Sandy, was appointed chair for this JPA. And somehow I ended up with the vice chair position. And we are all really excited about moving forward with a public-private partnership countywide to address the animal control services. This has been a long time coming, and we hope it leads to a new animal shelter, as well as a lot of other things to help out with animal control. And I want to give a big thank you to Lisa Gaines from here within the Winters community. She's been a really big help and a lot of expert advice and assistance in moving this JPA down the right path. So thank you to Lisa Gaines for that. And I've also had more meetings than I can count with the city manager and the mayor pro tem and our recruitment firm for trying to get us through the city manager process here. So thank you everybody for all your work on the committees, and especially lately all the hours that everybody's put in with the city manager search. So thank you for all of that. Next we have the public comment period of the meeting. And that's when anybody from the public that would like to speak on a non-agendized item, this is your opportunity to address the council for anything that is not on the agenda. Tracy, do we have any hands up to speak in public?
Kate Laddish, if she wants to unmute herself.
Okay, Kate, welcome.
All right, I think I'm well and truly unmuted now. All right.
There you are.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council. And first, I'd like to start with thanks, and that is thanks for the pool. And so, as I'm sure you all remember, you voted to not close the pool for the year. Seriously, heartfelt thank you from me and everybody else who's been using it. There have been people using the pool who've never used the pool before this year, and it's been a fantastic resource. I'm so grateful that that's been available. So thank you to council. Thank you to former city manager John Dunleavy. Thank you to interim city manager Shelley Gunby. Thank you to the city hall staff, some of whom I'm going to thank specifically in a moment. To public works staff, including Eric and Adrian for doing the maintenance of the pool, and to the actual at the pool staff. Particular thanks to Diana Tafoya, who's really been the mastermind behind this. She's reinvented the adult lap swim program twice this year and has really knocked it out of the park both times. And thank you also to Tracy Jensen for all the work she's done on that. And the second item is that with the housing element due in January, due to the state in January, and so earlier this year staff had estimated that there would be just one opportunity for public input on that in like a discussion session. And that was estimated to be probably in August or September. And so we're past that time now. And so I would appreciate hearing when that's going to be and get an update on what the process is going to be. So I respectfully request that council direct staff to bring a discussion of the housing element process.
No, put you in here.
I mean, I'm not sure what somebody else is joining the party. Anyway, I respectfully request that council direct staff to bring a discussion of the housing element process to council at your next meeting, so that there can be public input on what that process is, and just so that we can all know what we're doing going forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kate. I think the boss heard you. Okay, is there any other public comment, Tracy?
Let's see. Yes, we have Taylor Bewley, if he wants to unmute himself. There we go.
Hey, thanks. I would like to request, if possible, that we get rid of this password. I think it is a barrier to entry.
It's being required by Zoom as of September 30th, so we don't really have a choice.
Okay, I would love, thank you. That's the end of my comment. I will try to do what I can to make sure that someone can click on a link and still be able to join.
Thank you.
Thank you, Taylor. Is there anybody else, Tracy, that wants to speak in public comment?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the consent calendar. Shelley?
Good evening, Council and Mayor. So we have the first item, item A, is the minutes of our regular meeting from September 15th. Item B is a resolution of the City Council approving the Second Amendment to the BBK Legal Services Agreement, appointing Irrigation as our city attorney. Resolution 2020-54 is approving an irrevocable offer of dedication for road rights of way for Winners Highlands. And I did get a little more information about this. So this is a lot line adjustment because they want to have the roads line up differently in the two lots. So this is a request from the developer to do this so that they line things up a little bit differently. Item D is wastewater treatment influent screening improvements phase 2. It's the project budget sheet and an amendment to the West Yost amendment for final design of that project. Resolution 2020-52 is accepting a grant deed for public sidewalk easements along the Blue Mountain Terrace project on the Baker Street side. Item F is the wastewater treatment facility monitoring service agreement with Ludorf Galmani. Item G is the Climate Action Plan Development Board request for an extension of term. They want to extend from December 31st to the end of February 2021. And item H is an agreement with James George Designs for designing for the renovation of the old police station for finance and admin staff. And I think I understand that both Wade and Harold need to recuse themselves from item H. Harold for proximity and Wade for because he has business interests with James George Designs.
Correct. Is there anybody else that has conflict on the consent calendar items? Besides Harold and I? Okay. So we will entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar with Councilmember Anderson and myself not voting on item H.
I would move the consent calendar as stated.
Okay. We got a motion by Councilmember Lauren and a second by Councilmember New. Tracy, can you please do a roll call vote?
Councilmember Anderson?
Aye.
Councilmember Lauren?
Aye.
Councilmember New?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Biazzi?
Aye.
Mayor Cowan?
Aye. Okay, motion carries unanimously with the exception of item H. Okay, we're going to move on to presentations. We've got introduction of new city employee Kelsey Bean. She's our new permit tech for the City of Winners Building Division. Is our building official taking this one?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay. Gene, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. First of all, I'd like to say a thank you to Crystal and Shelley. It was a long 2 months without having anybody here. I appreciate them moving things along, getting the interviews done, and thank you, council members, for allowing us to hire us. I'm really excited to be able to introduce Kelsey Bean as our new permit tech. Kelsey grew up locally. She now lives in Woodland. planning. She has spent a lot of the last year working for the city of Woodland as an intern, working in the planning department, the code enforcement, the building department, and environmental services. She's been here 2 weeks, seems to be a fast learner. I'm impressed that she came back the second day after seeing what we need scanning wise, but I really am excited to have her here, and so far she's working out great for us. So I think some of you have been able to meet her in person. She's got a lot to learn, but she's doing fantastic with it. And I think she's available on Zoom to say hello to you guys if need be.
Sure. Kelsey, would you like to say a few words? Might need to unmute yourself.
Yeah. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I just want to say I'm really excited for this opportunity, and I'm really excited to work in Winters. It's a great town that I get to learn a lot more about, and working with Jean so far, I think it's going really well. We work really well together, and I'm excited to see what we can do.
All right, great. Thank you so much. Glad you're part of our team.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, next we have the update by Gary Goodman, manager of the Sacramento Yellow Mosquito and Vector Control District, regarding invasive mosquitoes that have been found in winters. Take it away.
All right. Well, my name is Gary Goodman. I'm the district manager for Sacramento Mosquito and Vector Control District. I want to say thank you for taking the time. I know these Zoom meetings can sometimes be a little bit difficult, but we put together a package to try to help explain what is going on in winter specifically and what's happening typically with our vector control season. Usually when we get to October, mosquitoes start to go away. We don't have as big of an issue. Unfortunately, this year we have a bit more of a challenge. So Tracy, if you can go to the next slide, please. So, our mission in general is to try to protect public health, specifically from vector-borne disease. And our main office is in Elk Grove. We also have an office in Woodland, but we cover all of Sacramento and Yolo County. And in the last 15 or so years, really the major portion of our focus has been on West Nile virus. And specifically a lot of those mosquitoes that are coming out of our agricultural areas. And our goal is to try to eliminate the picture that you see on the left by taking care of the mosquitoes of the picture on the right there. And our authority is handed to us by the California Health and Safety Code that has been in place for almost 100 years now. Tracy, next slide, please. So the challenge that we have, that we just recently detected literally 3 weeks ago today, was the find of an invasive mosquito that was found in winters. And this is known as Aedes aegypti. This is the yellow fever mosquito. And the challenge associated with this one is, one, it likes to bite people. So it likes to be around people and around homes. The second challenge that we have is that it takes just a very small amount of water for mosquitoes, for this particular mosquito to breed. So it finds very, very cryptic sources. This mosquito has been known to breed in a bottle cap of water. And so that makes it very difficult for us to find and try to remove. Typically, the mosquitoes that we deal with in terms of West Nile virus are found very easily, say, in catch basins or unmaintained swimming pools, or rice fields or irrigation ditches, those types of things. But to be able to have a mosquito that really seeks out these very small sources of water around people's yards becomes a larger challenge for us to be able to try to deal with. And that's one of the bigger challenges with this particular mosquito. And then Tracy, if you go to the next slide, the bigger challenge for us is that it is a very efficient vector of some exotic diseases. So specifically dengue, chikungunya, and Zika virus. And so this particular type of mosquito is not supposed to be in California. In fact, it wasn't really found in California until 2011, and it's established itself now in Southern California. And since that time, it's steadily made its way up the state. And so up until last year, we had not detected it within north of really Madera. And so, but this year last year we found it in Sacramento County. This year we found it in Yolo County. Sutter County has found it there, and it's actually made its way all the way up to Shasta County, which is a significant surprise because these mosquitoes don't really fly very far. Again, they like to be around people, and so they tend to kind of find a spot and stick around there. So the challenge here is, what are we going to do now that we have an efficient vector of these more exotic diseases? Next slide, please, Tracy. So where do we find it? So here's an aerial view. This is right next to the sewer treatment plant in the community garden. And this is a trap that we have set up to be able to try to monitor mosquito populations in the city of Winters for a long time. And so we detected it here on September 15th. So really, literally 3 weeks ago today. And so Tracy, if you can go to the next slide. So the fact that we found it was a significant surprise to us because, a community like Winters that is really an island, surrounded by agriculture, to be able to find this really was a challenge for us. So as you can see on this general timeline for the last couple of weeks, September 15th, the initial detection of it. The very next day, we started a door-to-door campaign because we know where these mosquitoes breed. They breed in people's backyards and their flower pots and things, and I'll show you a few pictures of that. And started to set traps around Winters to try to determine the scope of the infestation. On September 18th, just a couple of days afterwards, we did our first what we call a wide area larviciding spray. So this is putting out larval material that essentially seeks those water sources that are in town so that we can stop some of the immature mosquitoes from emerging into adults. A couple days later, we did our first adult deciding through town. And then so you can see just in literally just 2 weeks how much effort has been out. And so as of September 29th, we set over 300 traps in Winters to try to determine, again, the extent of where we're finding these mosquitoes. Tracy, next slide, please. So the surveillance efforts that we put out, so Winters is a pretty small town, so you may have seen these around over the last few weeks. This is the trap that we have. And it's interesting because for mosquitoes, there are different traps that attract different types of mosquitoes. Not every mosquito is attracted to the same type of trap. And so this particular trap emits out carbon dioxide, and it's a trap that essentially the mosquitoes are kind of looking for. So you can see that canister there that's burning. That's burning out carbon dioxide so that we can try to attract the mosquito into this type of container. Other mosquitoes are attracted to foul-smelling water because they want to lay their eggs, because their eggs they know that there's a food source in that thing. So for this particular mosquito species, this is the type of trap that finds it. And so we started setting these around the city. Again, 318 traps, and we found 144 of those have adult invasive mosquitoes. And we've actually found 41 locations that we found larval mosquitoes. So in people's backyards of sources where these mosquitoes are breeding. Tracy, next slide, please. So here's the extent of an overview of the city of Winters. And all of the red dots are traps where we found adult mosquitoes, and the yellow dots are where we've trapped but have not found mosquito as of yet. So you can see it really is centered in the middle of town there, both north and south of the main road there. But on the east side and west side, it tends to be a little bit less, but it doesn't mean that it can't transfer in over there. And so our effort is to be able to try to assess what is the extent of this and then do some of the mitigation measures like the wide area larviciding, like adult deciding, and setting more traps so that we can reduce the numbers of Aedes aegypti that we're finding in the city itself. Next slide, please, Tracy. So we've done about 400 or so door-to-door inspections, and essentially this is going around everyone's yard looking for these very, very cryptic sources of breeding and then treating appropriately once we find that. So it takes a good half hour, sometimes 45 minutes for each of our technicians just to do an inspection of one house. It's not a very it's a very intensive, not a very quick thing, unfortunately. And so that's where it takes a lot of resources to be able to do this. And so one of our goals is making sure that the community is aware and that we can give some ideas for folks as to what they can do to try to help us reduce the populations that we're finding. So we're definitely talking to folks and trying to provide information about the mosquitoes and telling them to try to dump any sources of water And when we do find them, to try to conduct any localized treatments as necessary. Next slide, please, Tracy. So as you can see here, here are some of the sources that we found. A lot of these are, you know, again, you see the wheelbarrow up there, but a lot of these are potted plants, and when that water sits in the bottom of that tray, that's a perfect breeding ground for these types of mosquitoes. This is exactly what they're looking for, because they know that they can lay their eggs there, they can hatch off into larvae, and then of course adults, and of course this is in someone's backyard, so then they have people that are around to be able to try to bite. And actually one of the issues that we're seeing as well is bromeliads. Some of the plants that people have, some of these bromeliads, like the picture on the bottom center, that plant actually holds water, and mosquitoes will breed, will lay their eggs and breed in just that little amount of water that's in the plant. So as you can tell, it's a big challenge for us to be able to try to find all of these sources and then of course treat them appropriately. Next slide, please, Tracy. So our PIO, Luz Maria Robles, who was on the call, I think now listening in, hopefully critiquing my explanation, has done a tremendous job of trying to get the message out to the city of Winters. Of course, her parents live in Winters, so she's very familiar with the city. And so we're doing everything we can, and I know the city has been very helpful in terms of trying to help disseminate this message, both in with the city council, with the neighborhood next door, with the local newspaper, trying to get as much information out so that people are aware this is what they should be looking for, and this is what they can do to try to help. But we've done an extensive effort to try to help educate the residents in Winters of what this problem is and how they can assist. Next slide, please, Tracy. So one of the strategies that we're looking at, it's not quite ready yet, but it's actually called sterile insect technique. And essentially what this strategy is that you release sterile males into the environment. These sterile males then mate with the wild females in town, and then when the female lays their eggs, the eggs are not viable. And so this is a very new technology. It actually was done in Fresno and Southern California, and is shown to be very effective in terms of being able to kind of crash the population. And Winters is almost this perfect scenario for this type of strategy, because these mosquitoes don't fly very far, and your city is an island, it's very compact. And so this is a technique that we will be investigating, taking a look at, and we'll have more information on that as things kind of progress along. But here's one that really kind of works, because when you release male mosquitoes don't bite and they don't transmit any disease. Only female mosquitoes bite. And the reason why they bite is because they need the protein in your blood to be able to help produce the eggs. So if we can release sterile males into the environment, then they can breed with the females and really crash the population. This has been, again, effective in places like Fresno and Southern California, and they've done this a lot in various Caribbean islands as well. They've shown scenarios where you don't have infiltration from outside sources, that this can be an effective technique. Next slide, please, Tracy. So moving forward, our goal is to try to help explore the use of the sterile insect technique and other control methods. We will continue to monitor the surveillance and do more control. Typically, we find our finding of this invasive species last year in Sacramento County. Once we got to November and the weather really started to cool off, then the mosquitoes kind of tend to hibernate at that particular point in time. So we anticipate not finding them after about November or so. But in this time frame now, we have warm weather and appropriate conditions, we want to be very active in being able to try to help curb this. Another thing that we're also doing is we've sent samples of these mosquitoes to UC Davis for genetic testing to try to figure out specifically where they may have come from, or what particular strain of mosquito this may be. And so we'll have more information from that once we get those results as well. But our goal really moving forward is to encourage the public to understand that there's an invasive species that is in Winters, to report if they see day-biting mosquitoes, because these mosquitoes tend to bite during the day, or can bite during the day, and really try to help us out by draining water on your property, discarding unwanted items, anything that can collect water. Again, we've seen these mosquitoes breed in a bottle cap of water. We've seen them breed in a potato chip bag that's filled up with water from someone's sprinklers. And so it's really a matter of trying to be diligent in reducing whatever those breeding sources may be. Next slide, please, Tracy. So you can get more information, or the public can get more information about these species or others that transmit possibly West Nile on our website at fightthebite.net, or give us a call at 1-800-429-1022. And I do want to say, again, a credit to Luz Maria, who's put together a lot of this information and trying to help disseminate all of this to the public, but also your representative that sits on the board, Gar House, who's on this call as well, has been very active, asks a lot of questions, is very interested, and wants to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to try to help the residents in Winters with this issue. He's a very engaged board member, very interested in what it is that we're doing, which is great. And that's what we want. I think he's an excellent representative of the city of Winters. And so with that, I'll kind of leave it up to see if the council has any questions.
Okay. First, before we get to the questions, I want to mention Gar as well. Since we've had Gar on this board, and it's a volunteer position, by the way, I don't ever remember having written reports on the mosquito board meetings before Gar House volunteered to be on that board. And ever since then, the entire council is very well informed about all the goings on at the mosquito board. And I just want to thank you, Gar, for that. And, you know, thanks to you, we seem to get real early notification on everything going on with mosquitoes, that's for sure. So thank you very much for that. Does anybody on the council have any questions for Gary or Mayor Pro Tem Biazzi? Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question for Mr. Goodman. Could you explain if there's any ground or aerial spray programs going on, and if so, people that want to be notified, how they can get information when spraying might be taking place?
Yeah, absolutely. We on our website, you can sign up on our website, fightthebite.net, and you can put in your address and your zip code. And so anytime we're doing activities for adult mosquito control in your zip code, then we'll send you a notification for that. We have been doing some ground treatments in the morning because that's where it's best to try to target the species. And we've also done some airplane stuff, not over town, but kind of as buffer areas south of town in Solano County to be able to try to help any potential recruitment that might be coming. But you can sign up on our website to get any notifications.
I just want to thank you and all your staff for your work on this. We've had experience here in my yard, particularly where we've called in a report. And we had people out there the very next day doing an inspection. They came out and they set traps. They've been very responsive to any concerns that have been brought up. So thank you for the work you've been doing on this.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I also want to just ask a quick question on the spraying that you've been doing. I've heard from a couple of folks in town about hearing the truck go by, you know, early AM and then noticing a film on their car. Can you speak to, is there any concern about that film on the car? Is it simply rinse off with water? What's the scoop on that?
Yeah, well, it is a little unusual with the film. There shouldn't be too, I don't want to say too much on there. The amount of material that we use is very small. You're talking about maybe ounces per acre in terms of material that's being put out. And so we put it out in what we call an ultra low volume aspect. And so we've done a lot of trials with it. We've been doing it for years. And so there shouldn't really be a residue, but for the most part, the material that we're using is a larvicide that they would be finding if they were to find anything, and it is registered specifically for, you know, to try to target mosquitoes. It has no other you know, side effects for humans or pets or anything like that. So if you do notice a film, which would be a little bit unusual just for the amount of material that we're using, it's not a whole lot, but yeah, just to rinse off with water should be no problem whatsoever.
Okay, good to know. Thank you. Is there any other council comments or questions before we open it up and see if anybody from the public has any questions? Wade? Yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to comment on the fact that we had a trap put in our yard, and the person, I wish I could remember her name. I know that she came, was very efficient, explained what she was doing, asked if it was all right, put it there, and then came back the next day and took it away. And we couldn't have been happier with what was done, so thank you.
Great, thank you very much, appreciate that. Whitney is her name, so I will make sure that Whitney knows.
All right, thank you. Okay.
Mayor, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Councilmember Warren.
Yeah, Mr. Goodman, I just have a quick question about drip irrigation systems. It seems like a lot of people in winters, including myself, are amateur gardeners that have drip irrigation systems. And as I heard you loud and clear about not leaving dishes underneath pots, but could latent plants like summer plants that haven't been ripped out and taken away, could those pots be holding enough water to help this population?
Yeah, absolutely. If anything that's holding water for more than a week, because a mosquito will lay its eggs, it goes through essentially four larval cycles before it merges into an adult. It takes about 7 to 10 days to go through that cycle. The warmer weather or the warmer the water is, the faster it will go. And so anything that's going to hold water for about a week will or can breed mosquitoes. And because these are in people's yards, and that's really what we're finding. We're finding a lot of wonderful gardeners that are out there that have lots of pots, and you want to make sure that they have water, especially the last few weeks since we've had really, really hot weather. And so you want to make sure that you're keeping those plants. And that's probably one of the challenges that we have. And so a lot of it is, if you can dump out that excess water that's in the tray, then that'd be great. Just give the plant enough water so it can survive. But that is definitely one of the challenges, and that's what makes it hard to try to eradicate this particular type of mosquito that's not supposed to be here. This is really one that is endemic to South America and Central America. It is on the East Coast in Florida and Texas and more kind of the more humid areas. But in California, it's now established itself, and I'll say very surprised that it's quickly made its way up to Shasta, to Redding, which means that essentially we as humans are the ones that are transporting this mosquito. This mosquito did not fly from Southern California to get here, so we're transporting it, whether it be in our cars or with potted plants or something like that. We had a situation last year in Sacramento County. If people are familiar with lucky bamboo, it's a bamboo plant that comes in with the rocks, and it's got water in there. And she got that as a housewarming gift, and the mosquito had laid its eggs in that lucky bamboo plant, and her daughter had brought it up from Southern California for a lovely, hey, welcome to Sacramento, here's a nice plant. Well, she brought an invasive species of mosquito with her, and so that becomes one of the challenges that we have. So.
Well, thank you, Mr. Goodman, and thank you for the work from Luz and also from our friend Guardhouse. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And I want to say thank you to Taylor for helping put all this stuff together. She's been wonderful to work with.
All right. Tracy, is there any public comment?
Let's see here. I don't see anybody.
I have a comment. Hey, wait, I have my hand up.
Tina Loudon.
Okay.
So, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, City Councilman, and Whittington, and I'm at 320 Neiman. Gary, a friend of ours who lives at the old church building on, is it 4th and Main, right, Wade?
3rd and Main.
3rd and Main. She was bitten with a lot of mosquitoes, and she called them no can see mosquitoes. And had a heck of a time finding out where they came through the windows, of course. This has been about 2 months ago. And it was from the sewer, the drainage in the street. This was 2 months ago. I've never heard of no can see mosquitoes. Apparently they're very tiny, and they were just a nuisance. And by the way, I have gotten bitten so much this week during the daytime. I'm using your wipes.
Oh, wonderful, yes. Yes, well, depends on what it is. Specifically, no-see-ums is kind of the common name. Yep, absolutely. And that's not a mosquito specifically, it's a biting midge. So it's similar, but only those that get geeked out about, insects would know those things. So that's okay.
Okay.
They sometimes come out. They can be very aggressive, and you tend not to see them until you see the bites on you. Absolutely. But we will take a look at that particular location. Danny Bickle, I'm sure you guys are all familiar with. He's been in Winters, your technician in Winters for a long time. And we'll send that information over. He'll have to take a look at that. Because yeah, you can get some other insects that go through. The no-see-ums are not mosquitoes specifically, so they don't transmit disease, but still a potential problem. We'll try to get a handle on it. That's the one thing. Thank you, Tina, for bringing this up. One thing that we do offer that Luz is very good about is promoting our insect repellent. We buy insect repellent by the pallet. If you have events, if you would like some, we're more than happy to deliver it to the city council or to wherever you would like to be able to help us distribute it, because we would like for the public to be able to use that mosquito repellent to help protect themselves, and especially as we're coming in towards the end of the season. But it's a free service. Just let us know how much you need. We'll be more than happy to drop all of those things off wherever.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, good to know. Tracy, is there anybody else from the public that would like to comment there?
No, I don't see anybody else.
Okay, thank you very much, Gary and Dar, for being on the meeting and all that you do, and very informative. And I know a lot of people have been asking about this with, all the notices that you guys have put out and all the traps. So thank you for what you do and for helping us get rid of these nasty mosquitoes. Okay, we'll move on to some discussion items.
Thank you.
Number one is an update on our OpenGov and NeoGov programs by the Director of Financial Management, our intern city manager, Shelley Gilby. Shelley.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight I just wanted to give you a quick update on the two major software programs that the finance and HR departments are implementing. The first one is NeoGov. That's our HR and payroll software. We entered into an agreement, in September of last year, Council approved a contract with NeoGov, and it's going to provide a lot of really good time savings and some additional abilities for city staff to manage their own data. We've been working very diligently with our implementation staff, and we've given them all the data they've requested. At this point, we are using the recruiting portion of the software, and we're hoping to start moving into the payroll portion of the software quickly. What this will allow us to do is do electronic submission of timesheets. Right now, everything's paper, so we're shuffling paper from the employee to the employee supervisor to Mary Lou in payroll, and then upstairs to my desk. That will all be eliminated. It'll all be done with your cell phone, iPad, computer, whatever device you have available. It'll allow for electronic tracking of leave balances. Currently, I'm doing that on a spreadsheet. So every payroll, I go through everybody's timesheets, I enter it on a spreadsheet, and then that's how we track vacation balances, sick leave, admin, floating holidays, those kinds of things. So that'll be a terrific time saver for us. It'll automatically integrate with our accounting software. Right now, we do spreadsheets that prepare all of the allocations of the various employees according to our allocation plan. And then we come up with a spreadsheet that gives us our journal entries, and we manually enter those journal entries into the payroll, into the accounting system. That will be done automatically for us. It'll also automatically report to CalPERS. Again, manually we prepare spreadsheets, and Mary Lou enters all of those each payroll. It is specifically designed for governmental processes and governmental payroll issues. It'll have a portal for each employee where they can go in and manage their tax withholding, their change of addresses, marriages, divorces, kids that turn 26 and need to be taken off of certain insurances, birth of a child. We'll be able to work on our open enrollment through CalPERS and all of our dental insurance and all of that. So it will be a tremendous time savings for us, and it will really stop a lot of the paper shuffling that we're doing. So we're looking forward to that. The second program that we're implementing is OpenGov, which is our budgeting and transparency software. This is moving along really well. All the required documents have been submitted. The 2021 budget worksheets have been submitted to OpenGov. Today, before the council meeting, I verified that the entire chart of accounts was correctly entered into the software program. And I have a standing call every Wednesday at 2 p.m. where we make sure that everybody's staying on task and on time. The goal is that we will be using this software completely 100% for our 21-22, 22-23 budget, depending on whether we do a two-year budget this year or just a single-year budget. So we're planning on going live with this towards the second week in January, and getting training to all the staff. So once we have it implemented, we'll be able to create an electronic budget book. It'll also be able to provide some transparency for our website with reporting and things like that automatically, because it'll integrate with our accounting software. So it's really busy. It takes a lot of time to do these kinds of projects, but we're really looking forward to getting them implemented. I think that once everybody's trained on it and we're used to using it, we're gonna gain a lot of extra time. So we're looking forward to it, getting it completed.
Okay, thank you very much, Shelley. And this isn't something we're gonna be voting on. This was just an update. We approved this quite some time ago to implement these programs. So thank you for the update, and I'm glad to see this moving forward. Is there anybody on the council that would like to comment or ask any questions of Shelley about OpenGov or NeoGov? Okay, seeing none. Tracy, is there anybody from the public that would like to comment on this item?
No, I don't see anybody.
Okay. And
Oh,
we'll move
excuse
on
me,
to
I'm
item
sorry.
Number 2.
I'm sorry, Wade, Tina's waving.
Oh, okay. I don't see everybody, just a few. So Tina, go ahead.
Tina Loudon again. So Shelley, I want to commend you guys for this effort. I read your report, and I'm so glad you're having a consultation with this OpenGov, NeoGov every week. That is so important. I have been I've done this a lot with different clinics around, and people don't understand how important it is to have a good understanding of these programs. So thank you, Shelley, and thank you for your crew. This will mean a lot. It's going to take 6 to 9 months to really get a good grasp of it, but congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tina. Okay, moving on. We have another update here, and this is on InterGov, which is building permit software. And that's being implemented by our building official, Gene Ashtown. I know he's been spending quite a few hours online learning how to operate this system. Gene, tell us a little something about it.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. The InterGov system that was initiated in stage 1, we actually completed in July of 2020. During the implementation of stage 2, actually on August the 17th, the LMU lightning fire started, and as we all know, unfortunately, Christine was affected dearly with that, and we had staff reduction as when my permit tech resigned. So we placed it on a temporary hold at that time, and Shelley and I met a few times and talked about bringing this back up, and we thought that being that the permit technician position is going to be very involved with the InterGov system, that it would be wise for us to wait until that position was filled and bring it forward from then on. So again, Kelsey has been with us since September the 29th, and we will be moving forward with the continuing of stage 2, which is the access and define, and it is scheduled to be started next week, which is the week of October the 14th, and it should be completed in October. Stage 3, which is the building and validate, is scheduled to start at the end of October and will be completed mid-January of 2021. This stage will include the data transfer, the validation of the desktop migration to the data conversion, everything like that. Basically what we're doing with this whole system is going from a system that we purchased in, I believe, 07 or 08, that is really outdated. And unfortunately, there's only one person back in Atlanta that really even knows the system when we have any issues. And this will upgrade our whole system for quite a few years in the future. Stage 4 will be the final testing and training, and it is scheduled to start February 21st and will be completed mid-March of 21. This stage will include all of the staff training, and it's scheduled to be completed remotely just due to the COVID-19. If that changes, they will be flying out their staff to train us on site. So we're hoping that we can get, besides other reasons, but getting the COVID-19 as that training here would be much easier to learn and better for the whole staff than doing it through Zoom. Stage 5 will be scheduled to start March 15th. And at that time, the system is, we will go live with the system. With all new updates in place, all the data transfers over and everything like that. Stage 6 is scheduled to start in January of 2021 and will continue through November 2024. And that is the whole closure to make sure that everything is working correctly, to make sure that everything got transferred over like it was supposed to. We're taking all of our old data from 07, 08 forward and bringing all of that into the new system. There is no physical impact and no action needed at this time regarding this. If anyone has any questions, I'd be glad to answer anything that I can.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mayor
Is
Helen,
there any council questions or? Shelley?
Mayor, I just wanted to reiterate that all 3 of the software programs that we just discussed are all cloud-based programs. Therefore, we are not investing in new hardware, and they will be continuously updated. Part of the problem with the InterGov system was because it was desktop-based. Some of the upgrades that were provided were not included in the program when we purchased it, and that's part of why the program is out of date and not really usable. All 3 of the new programs that we've discussed this evening are all cloud-based, and so we should be continuously getting updates and always have the most up-to-date software on all 3 systems. So I just wanted to point that out for the council.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions for staff on our InterGov? Or is there any public comment, Tracy?
I don't see any hands raised or any waving hands.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Ashdown, for that update. And we're looking forward to all this stuff getting implemented and fully functional. It'll make us a lot more efficient. Okay, moving on to discussion item number 3. We're looking to do the creation of a fundraising commission for the Winters Senior Center for the furniture and fixtures and staffing. And this is something that myself and the interim city manager, Shelley, met with Marlene Bell and Karen May, asked to meet with us to discuss their idea of the city forming a commission that would work on fundraising and procurement of furniture and fixtures and helping us to figure out how to finance a director for our new senior center that we got a grant to get built. That should get built in the next year and a half. So we appreciate them coming forward and offering to help lead this. And I think we want to have a little discussion with the council about how we might form this. Part of what we talked about was doing it like with Marlene and Karen, is possibly doing it along the same lines as the planning commission and the senior commission that we have, with 5 to 7 board members, and that a subcommittee of the council could take the applications and make a recommendation for appointments and help them get up and running and off to the races. So, Shelley, is there anything you'd like to add before we open the discussion up with the council? You're muted, Shelley.
Sorry. No, Mayor, I think you've covered everything. The only thing I guess there is one thing, that donations to the furniture and fixture count would come through the city, and it would be tax deductible for people that are willing to donate to that. So we would provide a letter with our taxpayer ID number so that they can include that on their taxes. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yep, that's an important piece. Would Marlene or Karen, would you like to make any comments?
I have my hand up in the manner of speaking.
Okay, we hear you.
Thanks so much for sitting down and talking to us. Karen and I thought that it would be beneficial to approach the city to talk about resources, to have program and resources ready to go when the doors open. And we recognize that this project is going to be about a 2-year-long project. So you don't wait for 6 months before the doors open to start talking about planning and staffing and equipment and chairs and tables and that kind of thing. So having a representation of our community as part of this committee was a big piece of business. We want this to be a sample of the winners community, the senior community, and we're not opposed to having people on the committee who are not seniors, but who are interested in the process that we need to go through to make the senior center a viable and active part of the community. We also wanted to have this be representative of those who were interested in program and identifying what kinds of programs that our community is interested in. Our community may be very different than the Davis community or the Woodland community in terms of program interest. We need to do a needs assessment for that. We also need to identify resources other than the city's resources to support acquisition of equipment, furniture, and whatever the other F is, furniture, fixtures, and equipment. So, we're looking to be a part of the community. It's the city council's job to put this committee together. We believe that we answer to the city, or whoever is on the committee should answer to the city, and that they are a function of the city. So, but the most important part is that we represent, the committee represents the community of seniors in Winters.
Okay, thank you, Marlene. Karen, would you like to comment before we open it up for everybody else?
Okay, I know what it is. I just want to point out that Marlene and I sit on the board of the Winter Senior Foundation. This has nothing to do with them. We are seniors who are excited about the senior center coming and the grant money being given to us. And we want to help make it the best that it can be.
Thank you, Karen. Okay, Colleen, I'll get you in just a minute. Is there any council comments or thoughts on this commission before we get some more public comment?
Okay. Mayor, I would just mention that I was part of the commission that saw information on what the senior center would look like and what it would entail. And in that search, we did compile information from Sacramento, Woodland, and other surrounding cities about what was offered in their programs. And somewhere there are notes on all of that study that might be a good starting point for this endeavor. It had to do with programming, what would work in winters, what wouldn't, and how those systems were managed. So there are notes and there is a history, and that was in the commission led by Dr. Sheila Allen.
Okay, thank you. That's great information. Does anybody on the council have any thoughts or concerns about the formation of the commission? Anything like that? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just have a couple comments on this. First of all, I want to thank Karen and Marlene both for coming forward with this idea. I think it's a great idea. We put together this type of a commission. You know, I've had discussions with some people in the past about, you know, we're going to build this, you know, beautiful new senior center, but, you know, how are we going to staff it? How are we going to pay for all the things inside? Because the grant money that we got to build it is only for building. It's not for furnishings or anything else. So I applaud these people for coming forward with this idea of a fundraising commission. And if there's anybody that can do it, it's the people in Winters who always step forward when there's needs like this and pitch in to help to do this. So I just want to say one of the questions that came up was, and we might have to reach back into the archives and reach back to Dan McGuire, but to find out what exactly is an estimate of the amount of money that would need to be raised in this type of a campaign to buy the furniture and various things we need, as well as future staffing. I think that's one question. But I think that putting together this commission is a great idea for taking care of some of these needs. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Biazzi. Harold, do you have any thoughts on the forming of this commission?
Yeah, I'm wondering how the jurisdiction of this entity will work. In other words, will people from other communities be coming over to use the facility? Or does be some kind of vice versa exchange? And you do not limited to the city, but into the quote community.
Right. Well, I personally feel that I'm quite certain, just like with our community center, that this facility would be available to anyone within the greater Winters area, as we like to call it. Even though some of those folks are in Solano County and out in the Yolo County area, they're still considered part of the Winters community, and I would think for sure that they would be included in this. And I know on one of the other commissions we did, it might have been the other senior commission, that we allowed applicants from outside the city limits. We were allowed to do that for a commission purpose, and we just specified that they needed to have a Winters address, or basically be within our zip code, and we were allowed to do that. So I would hope that we could do the same with this in case there's, we do have some very active seniors within Winters that don't actually live within the city limits, but they are, like I said, within the greater Winters area. So I would like them to have the opportunity to volunteer for this if they'd like. And I'm perfectly fine with a 7-member commission like we have for the planning commission. And we could, have Tracy put something in the paper and we could get some volunteers, some applicants, and see who we come up with and maybe establish, tonight, if we all agree on a 7-member commission or a 5-member commission, we could agree to have Tracy do this, and then also have 2 of us volunteer to have interviews, conversation, whatever you want to call it, but the people that volunteer to, do an appointment for the people to sit on the commission. So if somebody from the council wants to do a motion for something like that, and we can also open it up first to, before we do that, to public comment. I know we have some people from the public that would like to say a few words about this topic. So if the council's okay with it, I'll get the public comment before we
Through the mayor.
work on our motion. Yes, go ahead.
One more question. This is a question for the city attorney.
Yes.
I'm kind of curious. I know we've had some of these discussions in the past about the formation of a commission versus a committee and the Brown Act, that type of implications on them. What can you kind of spell that out for us, what the differences are?
Right, well, it's really how it's created and who sits on it. The name isn't the really critical part. So if it's a body, whether you call it a committee or a commission, that is formed by the council, there aren't any members of the council that are members of that committee or whatever, committee or commission. Then you can, then they are not necessarily subject to the Brown Act. It depends on what their scope of their authority is. If they are going to be final decision makers and are going to be using funds, you can create a committee that, you may want their meetings to be public. And so you can, when you establish it, you can put in the body's bylaws that they are subject to the Brown Act if they have a majority of their members who are meeting. So, that is to be decided. It depends on how you constitute the body and then what the bylaws say and what you would like the bylaws to say.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And to expand on that a little bit, Iris, does it play a part in the whole idea that this is going to be a fundraising committee and we're going to use the city's tax ID for tax deductibility? Does that dictate which way we have to go with this?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
This committee would be just tasked with raising the money, but not making the decisions on what is purchased, what style of furniture, what,
you could say that they could make recommendations to the council.
Yeah, okay. Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, I would just,
Okay,
may I make a comment, Mayor?
go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that I was able to retrieve it's the City of Winters Senior Project. There was a final report dated 10/1/2018, and it does have records of all the places that were visited and kind of an overview. So that might be helpful. And as far as my 2 cents on committee or commission, since this is a body that would be making recommendations, I would just see it more as a committee than a commission because of the short-term aspect of determining the purchase of items.
Okay, because you're correct, it would basically, hopefully, be a 2-year deal here at best. And thank you for finding that information. I think that's a good leaping off point for this group when they get together. If there are any other council comments right now, I'll get the public comment on this. And I'd like to start with Colleen Brock. Go ahead.
Well, Jesse just said everything almost that I was gonna say, so that's great, on top of it. I just wanted to share that, yes, 2 years ago, the city did receive some CDBG funds for senior services. And so there was, Sheila Allen came in and did all kinds of public meetings to gather information. And there is a report that I'm not sure if it's on the city website, but I have those details, and I know Dan did too. We also explored the types of services that people were interested, the top services, what the needs were, like transportation and such. And like Jesse said, they went around and visited other senior centers to see what they had. In addition to that, we looked at, I think at one point I wrote a job description for a senior center director and the details related to that. So there's a lot of resources that I can share with this committee that Dan and I worked on when we received, and of course Sheila, when we received the grant a couple of years ago. So that can be helpful to everyone moving forward, which was the intent of getting the grants. So.
Okay, thank you, Colleen. Sounds like we have our first volunteer sign up right there. Tracy, is there any other public that would like to comment? They're all scared now.
Yeah, I don't see any raised hands or waving hands. Oh, maybe Tina. Excuse me. Tina's back.
Volunteer number 2. Tina, go ahead.
Okay, good. Colleen, you talked about the grant. We received a grant. Do you remember how much it is? And Shelley, is it in restricted funds?
The grant that we're talking about was, I would have to go back and look at the dollar amount, but it's a closed grant now. The money was spent on bringing Sheila Allen in to do all of those meetings and surveys and create the final report. So there isn't any funds available from that particular grant because it expired. Sorry.
I thought there was $1 million out there. Okay, thank you.
We could help.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But is there any other public comment, Tracy? Or have we seen anybody?
I think Councilmember Lauren was waving her hand a minute ago.
Oh, but it's public comment. I just wanted to make a comment to Ms. Brock. I did not mean to steal your thunder in any way, shape, or form, but I served on that committee, and I served on it because I, took care of my mom through her passing, and spent a lot of time at different senior centers, not having one in winter. So
yeah,
pardon my knowledge of it.
You have first-hand knowledge. That's great.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, would anybody from the council like to try to put some of this into the form of a motion so that we can create this, I guess we're going to call it a committee? Councilmember New. Unmute yourself. Here.
I move that the council create a fundraising commission for the Winter Senior Center furniture and fixtures, and direct the staff to initiate a fundraising committee for the Winter Senior Center furniture and fixtures.
Okay, that sounds like a motion.
I would second with, but with the language of committee, not commission, in both parts of the motion.
Okay, okay. I thought I had it.
That sounds good.
Is that it?
You got 1 out of 2, you're doing great.
Can I ask for a clarification?
Yes, go ahead.
Are we going to move, how many member committee are we going to move forward with?
7.
Okay. 7. So we have a motion and a second to form a committee of 7 for fundraising purposes for the senior center. Tracy, can you do a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Anderson?
Aye.
Councilmember Lauren?
Aye.
Councilmember New?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Biasi?
Aye.
Mayor Cowan?
Aye.
Mr.
Motion
Mayor,
carries unanimously.
Mr. Mayor, this is Iris. I just have a quick question.
Yes.
You may want to, maybe, now that you've made the decision to form the committee, then maybe are you going to have an application period for people to volunteer to serve on the committee? How do you want to, build membership of the committee?
Okay. Yeah, I think that should be next here. So, I think the sooner we get this going, the better. And if everybody's okay with it, we can direct Tracy to put out an ad in the paper and however else she does that normally, social media, and see if we can get people to apply maybe over the course of the next month. And then 2 of us can review those and then report back to the council. Since I kind of got roped in at the very beginning, I'll volunteer to be one of those 2. So if somebody else wants to volunteer for the other spot, Councilmember New. So is everybody okay with that? And should we put that in the form of a motion as well, Iris?
No, I think you can direct, Tracy just to do that, yes.
Just direction to staff? Okay. All right, that sounds real good. And we're going to depend on Marlene and Karen to help get the word out and probably be the first 2 to turn in their application. right before Colleen. So thank you all very much for bringing this forward. I
I'm
think
part of your meeting staff that has to get the building built.
Yeah, that's right.
I gotta do that first before furniture.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Shelley, when's that getting started? Sooner the better.
Me too.
Still waiting on a contract.
Yeah.
Okay, we get the contract, we'll let it out right away, that's for sure. Okay, thank you, everybody. All right, moving on. Item number 4 is a proposal for agenda management and video streaming services for future city council and planning commission meetings. I've been waiting for this ever since I got on the city council. Shelley, tell us about Granicus.
Okay, so staff went through a demo of Granicus software, and we actually have 2 people on tonight's meeting. Let me find the information. So Jesse Wallace and Cody Beltran from Granicus are attending the meeting, and they'll be able to answer any questions. But this is an agenda management program. Again, it's cloud-based, and it would enable staff to streamline the entire agenda prep process and minute-taking process through various processes. So all of the agenda prep would be done electronically. Again, it takes away the need for me doing a staff report and then taking it over to Tracy, and then Tracy having to make copies and having to number all the pages and then get it converted to a PDF, and then finally getting it published for everybody to be able to see. This would be a process where we would do it within, we would create our staff reports within the Granicus program. We would be able to attach any of our documentation. So like if I were doing my TDA claim, I'd be able to do my TDA staff report in their template. I'd be able to attach my TDA claim packet to that. That all becomes part of the permanent record. During the live stream, when you make a motion, the live stream would collect that information and track the motion and track the votes. We did have some questions as I reviewed the packet with various council members. But maybe we'd like to hear from Jesse or Cody first. They can probably give you a lot more information because I'm not a city clerk. I just do the part that hands everything to Tracy and waits for her to put it all together. So maybe either Jesse or Cody could step in and give you a little bit more information.
Yeah, hey team, this is Cody from Granicus. I'm the account specialist here, help with quite a few cities and counties in California in the 10K market. I was working with Tracy to know more about the agenda management solution. So Jesse and I can show the product to council and mayor. I just wanted to say thank you so much again for allowing us to be part of the call. Just reiterate what Shelley said. With the agenda management solution, it helps with getting time back into your day, helps focus more important initiatives that city clerks or city managers may have day to day, as well as reduce wasteful printing and paper costs. I'm not sure if you guys are using a lot of paper to print the agenda packets to be sent to city council members. And then also one huge thing is ADA compliance. We're working with a lot of cities to do more compliance with those who can't read or hear, as well as reduce time spent building public info requests to make information more accessible to citizens on your website. So I will allow Jesse as well to speak. Is it okay if we show a quick presentation as well, Tracy?
Sure, I can. Are you able to share the screen from your end?
Yeah, I can share my screen.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. I want to be respectful of everybody's time, so I normally we do a more in-depth demo, and as people earlier, but the city got a chance to see that. But if it's okay, unless you want a longer demo, I can just kind of hit the high points and give you a pretty abbreviated version, if that's okay.
Yeah,
I think that'd be fun.
Okay, good.
Okay.
And plus, please, before Jesse goes, please stop Jesse or I. We want to make this meeting as transparent as possible. Please ask us as many questions as you guys may have. I know we just showed this product to Tracy and Shelley like a week and a half ago. So please stop us if there's anything that you guys want to know more about or have questions.
All right, I will share my screen. Can everyone see what's on my screen?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, so kind of starting out with the public experience, we have something called a view page, and we'll just give you a snippet of code. We'll modify our code to match the current site, so it'll blend in. And then we supply a snippet of code, so whoever is your webmaster will just need to put this on any page or pages that they want this data to automatically show up on. So after that one-time insertion of the code, then you won't have to bother the webmaster in order to get your stuff published. And then the public would see, your page with your agenda and minutes. In here, you can see that I have a view where I've actually gone in and there's different boards and committees here that are actually archived in here. So we can go through and see the pieces we want to see. And then, of course, it's really up to you what you publish, but you can publish your agenda minutes, obviously, after the meeting. Video will be published after the meeting. And if there's a current meeting that's in progress, like the one today, let's say that you're using Zoom, you can, of course, take that feed from whatever presenting machine you want, put it right into the encoder, and then the public will be able to jump on to our streamed meeting, meaning that you don't have to worry about maybe what people are doing on camera camera or whatever, so everybody can participate and watch, whereas the council or anybody that's going to be speaking during the meeting or that's signed up to speak or anything, they would probably come into the Zoom call, whereas everyone else can see this. And this is really can support an infinite amount of clients on here. We have a really large CDN, so it'll be fast, easy. It works on any mobile devices or anything like that. And so during a live meeting, there would be a link in here that says in progress, and we can click on that and then pull up the live meeting. And the live meeting is going to look very similar to the archived one, with the exception of the timestamps that you see here. But the agenda will be side by side with the video. They can expand it, do whatever they want with it. And then you have the ability to timestamp, of course, during the live meeting. So this is really handy for the public to be able to just jump to a segment of the meeting that they're interested in, and it pulls all the titles directly from your agenda itself, so you don't type those in or anything. This is also really handy for anyone who's doing the minutes on any of these boards or committees or commissions or anything. When they go in to polish up their minutes, being able to just jump to the agenda item in question versus kind of sift through the full video, that makes it pretty handy. So that's the front end. There's also going to be a really powerful search. So it's pretty much like self-service. If somebody has a records request, being able to find something in the system is super easy, and it'll give them a hit on the item itself to see this customer is actually doing captioning, which is an additional service, but the captions, if you decide to do that later, are also searchable as well. So that's kind of handy. Moving into the back end, it's completely web-based. This is a really good tool for collaboration for everybody working on the agenda. So typically, the workflow we see is like departments will submit their items through the web-based system. And submitting an item is really just as simple as filling out an online form. So they'll add the items. The fields below this are all customizable, so you can customize them based on the item type and the department who's submitting. Obviously, different items maybe need different fields to fill out that are more relevant than others. So we keep it pretty easy. The permission structure will allow this product to be easily shared across the entire city. So a lot of times clients will start out and be using this with like their primary meeting bodies or meeting body. But then as time goes on, maybe like fire, public safety, and parks and rec, and lots of other departments within the city or connected agencies start using it because the permission structure will allow you to isolate everybody in the environment so they only have access to the items and the meetings and agendas and workflows that are part of their department or part of their permissions group. So it's easy to share, and our pricing is just based on an annual model. So there's no limitation in terms of how many users, admins, or anything like that. We want you to get the most out of it and love the software and feel like you're getting your money's worth. The agenda management portion, in terms of managing an existing agenda, these can be created as a one-time event, or they can be created as an entire series. And then they're, of course, editable at an individual level or a meeting level. And here you can sort of see an agenda structure. These have, oh, sorry, was there a question? Oh. So this is an agenda structure in here, and it's templated. So this is what we have is like city council regular, but I suppose that maybe sometimes you guys do like an executive session or closed session or something like that, which usually calls for like a more simplified template. And it's really easy to create these. We'll have everything set up during your training, so it's turnkey, but you will have the keys to go in and modify users' permissions, add your own templates in here, and modify this stuff as you see fit. There's also a built-in minutes tool, which is really neat. So if you do have a commission or a citizen ran committee or some advisory board or whatever, and you don't do their minutes for them normally, they do have a tool to construct their minutes really easily using this tool. And somebody with like zero clerk experience and maybe 30, 45 minutes worth of training will be able to generate a very unprofessional looking minutes document. The minutes that's built into doing real-time minutes during a live meeting is more advanced. So that of course is meant for probably like an actual clerk or somebody with clerk experience to use. But we have this built-in tool for anybody that wants to use it as well. And it's pretty easy. They can download the finished document, templated and ready to go. They can download it to a PDF or Word doc. If they download to a Word doc, they can go to manually edit it and then publish the edited one if they want when they're done. You have a really awesome item system. So this might be of interest if you have maybe directives for the year or initiatives for the year, and you're really trying to track the business done around those things, it's really easy to add custom fields and track things in the system. So for instance, I always like do a little example of like create an initiative, and one of the 3 initiatives, let's say, that we outlined for the year is water conservation. I can go into here, do a search, find up all the items and filter just the ones out that have to do with water conservation. And then I can push this out to an Excel file. And so if somebody asks for this information, or council, you want to sort of see how much business is being done around certain items, or if you have, even if you have, like maybe a grant or something that you're using, and you want to track the items and business done around that grant, you could easily start filtering that information and find those things. Moving into the delivery of the agenda, when we're done with our agenda, we can simply click publish, and it'll allow us to publish that instantly to our view page for the public to see when we're ready. Sorry about that coughing. But we can publish that, and then we can also publish it to something called iLegislate. And iLegislate is something that the council would probably utilize. The council can, of course, get printed out packets, downloadable PDFs, ADA compliant documents, but this would be a more device-based agenda delivery system. So this will run on an iPad, it'll run on Windows 7, 8, 10, it'll work on a Surface, it'll work on a Mac. So people can kind of pick what device they want to install this on. It's free, it comes with our agenda management software. But what it does is it allows you to go in and see the agendas you have access to. So the second the clerk publishes this, you'll have the most recent copy. If the clerk goes in, or the agenda coordinator goes in and decides that they need to make a few changes last minute, instead of having to reprint, collate, and all that stuff, they'll just be resent to these devices and then republished to the website. So make it really easy. And here, if we click on a particular item of interest, we have the ability to take notes. I already put a note in here, but we can take notes on this. We can view all of our attachments, and we don't need any special tools to view our attachments. And this really does act like a paper replacement. So in here, for instance, you can see I did a little bit of a doodle, and then I put a sticky note on here. We can strike stuff out, highlight it. So this is a way that we can really prep for an upcoming meeting. And these are our own personal notes. The only way to get your meeting notes off of here would be to download them and hand them over to somebody. We don't have admin access. Nobody has admin access. So you would have to actually download these, just as if somebody requested your notes during a meeting. You would have to physically hand those over. So this allows you to save all your annotations in the system. When we go into the notes area, we can see the notes that we took for a particular item. If I click on that note, it'll take me right back to the item I took the note on. The same is true with the bookmarking system. I can watch past videos. So if maybe there is a dispute over what was said in a previous meeting, I can pull this up on my iPad, quickly jump using the timestamp, and watch that particular thing if I needed to. This can also be expanded out down the line. If you want to automate voting, this can be turned on to act as a voting device too. So you can motion seconds, vote on an item, or request to speak, get thrown in the speaker's queue, all of that good stuff. The live manager interface is what your agenda coordinator, whoever is kind of managing the meeting, would use. They simply load the meeting in question from the list of available published meetings, and they click start. Once they started it, it tells the encoder to start streaming it if you're doing a live stream, and it also tells it to start recording. At this point, we can do things like record a roll call. If somebody comes in later on, we can, of course, go in the section of the agenda where they came in and do an additional roll call if we want. We can go in and create motions on items. It'll have all the council members for whatever agenda we're loading pre-populated in here, so we can select our first or seconder. We can record these items, and then we can, of course, call our vote. And we do have some expansions available so that you can hook up one of our devices to a display, and it'll show the voting, either results or real time, whatever your preference is, as well as what's going on, what motion you were on, all of that stuff. We can record these. If we need to go correct them, we can just click on them again, correct these things in the record. And then when we're all done with our agenda, and by the way, we can jump around. We don't have to go in order. If something new comes up, we can add it in. But all of these items that are over in this column, when we're done and we click stop and finalize, it'll push these through a template and build really beautiful minutes for us to publish later. So we can also go in and clean them up after the fact if need to be. But There's lots of other new stuff the system does, but I know that it looks like you had a pretty well-packed agenda and squeezed us in at the end. So,
Well, thank you very much. I'm certain that Tracy heard that part about instantly having minutes there and her not having to write them. So I'm sure you've got her vote already. Okay, does anybody from the council have questions for Cody or Jesse?
Yes.
I'll throw it out there. Oh, excuse me.
Yeah. Go ahead, Harold.
Okay, so this looks like it would help the city clerk quite a bit. But what about the Joe citizen who comes in and wants to try and navigate through this thing, doesn't know anything about it?
for a citizen, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, so the citizen will have access just to the view page, which, as we brought up earlier, it's pretty simple. It just has agenda packet if you decide to publish those, and then of course minutes if that's published, and then the video. So they can click on any of those and do those easily. The piece with the iLegislate is really just for council members. The training on that, I think we do usually about 30 minutes, and I think we need about 5 to 10 minutes in reality, because it's a pretty simple interface. There's not a lot of capabilities, and you don't have to use it. So you can, of course, still use a paper packet if you want. The system will supply those, but generally it's got all the advantages of having a paper packet at your hands, but it's much faster. So the citizen will really just be getting access to the agenda from the web portal. They won't be using this other stuff. This stuff is all stuff really for the staff members that are preparing agendas, and then the council who will get delivery of the agenda through the iLegislate app.
And it seems like you almost need somebody in City Hall or somewhere to, I don't want to say hold your hand, but to walk somebody through this who's not a techie.
Yeah, we supply full training in our deployment process. So we do training with the staff members that are going to be using it. And if council wants training, we can certainly do the training with council as well for the iLegislate piece and the pieces that they're interested in using.
So Jesse, I think maybe what Harold's trying to get at, if they can access the current agenda packet on our webpage, they should still be able to do that with Granicus, correct?
Yeah, I don't think the experience will change that much, with the exception of it'll be easier on you guys to get it up on the website. But and we can make it look more like what people are already used to, of course.
Is that where you were headed, Harold?
I guess so.
Okay.
For the mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so one of the questions that I have is, from what I can tell in your proposal, this does not include any hardware for, say, our video service or audio, any of that type of stuff. So is that correct?
That is, this is Cody. So no, in that quote, it doesn't include hardware or cameras. I could give two mentions of companies that we work with, which is one of them is called Blackmagic AV, and the other one is Aja. I think that's how you pronounce it, AJA AV. We've had a lot of great positive reviews from those companies that work with cities and counties, and mostly just work with Granicus to know how stuff goes. But yeah, no cameras or hardware that's listed in that quote.
Cody, it does come with the encoder, right?
Yeah, it does come with an encoder, but no camera.
So the encoder takes whatever signal you currently have, and you push that into the encoder, or if you have like cable access or something like that, you're already sending your video signal to, you would just split it off and send one of them to the encoder. Do you currently have cameras and microphones in your chambers room?
We do have a camera and microphones. It's very old. So I'm wondering if there's a way to try out our current camera with your system to see if it would be compatible?
Yeah, so that would be pretty easy to figure out. Generally what's out there is there's most people either have a analog camera, and that's going to be like the RCA connectors or S-video or something like that. And then a lot of newer cameras are HDMI or SDI. Our device takes SDI for the digital version. We do have an analog version, but I don't recommend getting that because then you're not future-proof, right? Then later on, if you want to go digital, you would need that. But if you want to send me over the model number for the camera, I can do a quick lookup and find out what you're working with right now.
OLD.
That's the model number, all right.
So yeah, that's what improved cameras and microphones for the future. But if we can get by for even for now with what we have until we can get more information on the hardware, that would be good. And what about like previous recordings we have from old council meetings? Could we upload those into the Granicus system?
Yeah, so the Granicus platform provides unlimited storage capability. So there is the ability for you to manually upload those in. And we do have a data services team. So if you have those, all of those previous recordings, agenda, and minutes in some sort of uniform, I don't know, in some sort of uniform stored method or something, or a spreadsheet to tell us which ones are which, we have a data services team and we can scope out a migration. If it's just videos, agenda, and minutes, those migrations are usually fairly inexpensive. Whereas if it's gonna have like more complicated data tied to it, it could be a different story. But you do have the ability to manually upload the ones you want. So over time, or that might be like sometimes people think it's a good internship opportunity.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. So the key feature that I see with this, I believe I read in there that it's keyword searchable through the minutes. Is that correct?
It's keyword searchable through the agenda items themselves. The minutes are, if they're attached for like the approval of the minutes, attachments are also searchable, but the interface is set up to search agenda items, but not the items captured in the minutes.
Okay, does your proposal also include updates to the software that might become available?
Yeah, this is a SaaS product, so you're going to get every update that we do. We generally do updates several every quarter. We just did a few big enhancements recently, but all of that is just included in your annual licensing.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I can see this as being a huge step forward from what we currently have and taking some of the time off of the clerk's duties to allow the clerk to be available to do more things. So yeah, I think this is a good move into the 21st century for us.
Yeah, I think it'll make it easier on the staff, and then it's nice for the public too to have nice clean interface to work with to find stuff, and maybe less requests come in too for asking for things.
Yes.
Agreed. Is there any other council comments before we open it up for any public comment? Tracy, do we have anybody with their hand up from the public that would like to speak to this item?
Yeah, Taylor Bewley's available.
Okay, Taylor, go ahead.
Thanks. Awesome idea. This platform looks amazing. Anything that makes Tracy's life better seems like a good idea from my perspective. I really appreciated, I wanted to say I appreciated Harold, I appreciated the comments from the council member about the usability for the portal. I think that I'm hugely suspicious of the idea that we're going to take the city's approach currently works. They post PDFs in an easy to follow list. I mean, it's super easy for anyone to use. The on-site SEO is fantastic. You can use Google to find anything you want. And using a portal, I guess my concern is that they're not going to be indexable by Google. So on-site SEO is possibly going to go out the window. And I think that Harold's comments about usability for everybody is fantastic. But presumably you can just output a PDF and everyone can continue exactly the way that we're currently doing, but just make Tracy's life better at the same time. I had a few questions for the vendors, and One of the things that the council currently live broadcasts on YouTube, and that's a wonderful feature that enables real-time participation that's not necessarily through Zoom. Does the platform encoder support like Rtmp for real-time live streaming? Another question is it capable of handling like their 2x2s and other agenda-based meetings where disclosure is involved or minutes are involved? And then my final question is that what are the integrations with, for example, press and notifications of various people once the agenda has been published? Thank you.
Yeah, those are great questions. So in terms of the first one, I think that was Rtmp availability. In terms of the Rtmp broadcast, we provide a stream link so it can be shared across Facebook or social media. In terms of sending the feed directly to YouTube, right now we're working on our second iteration and a big update for our video technology. So I think next year that's going to be available for not only YouTube, but like simulcast with other services that take Rtmp or OBS or whatever. And then one of the questions I think was around people being able to subscribe to get notified of published agendas. Is that right?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so we have another platform that's called Gov Delivery, and we built it out for the federal space. So like the Social Security Administration, DOD, ATF, White House, VA, they all use it. It's FedRAMP authorized. And we have a free integration with that called Send Agenda, where people can subscribe through the portal. And when they subscribe through the portal, they're on a topic list. And so when I went in to show the publishing of the agenda, a third option underneath that would be activated is called Send Agenda. And it's actually good that you brought this up, because if the city does want it, Cody can throw it on the quote and it doesn't cost any extra, and we can just build that capability in. And then the other question I think was in terms of you said 2x2. I didn't quite understand what you meant by that. I'm sorry.
So is it limited to council meetings? There's some other meetings that they provide notification for and we get agendas for. Is it any agenda-based meeting this can cover, or is it specific to certain types of government?
No, it can be shared across the city. Different departments can have access to it, or different divisions within the city can all use it, and it costs the same no matter how many people are using it. And then in terms of being able to subscribe to a particular meeting body of interest, that's available through the Send Agenda add-on as well.
Awesome. Those were great answers. Thank you for answering my question. Can you speak to, I'm sorry to dominate time, but can you speak to my suspicions about SEO? My concern is, it sounds like it's a widget or some JavaScript-based delivery of this portal. Isn't that not going to be scrapable or findable? Doesn't that present a challenge for SEO?
Yeah, it does a little bit, because it is going to be truly hosted within the Granicus cloud, and all this stuff is going to be through our system in AWS and stuff. So it's not locally there. However, we do provide RSS feeds. So if you wanted to wind the RSS feeds inside, you could do that as well to at least get some of the search to be localized. But we have our own search on the portal. So using Google to search the meetings, they will show up with the Granicus URL and still be searchable, but it would be, like the city name.granicus.com, where it versus the city's full website. So it would still pull it up, and it would just pull up the portal rather than the actual city page. So you're not getting the full native SEO. You're right about that.
Okay, I'm just curious. Does anybody besides me and Harold think that Cody and Taylor have been speaking Greek? They lost me on most of that. Councilmember Lauren.
Yeah, it is a bit above my pay grade, but I just wanted to insert something with the conversation between Jesse and Taylor. When it comes to meetings like that 2x2, the City of Winners meeting with the county, or City of Winners meeting with the school district, etc. These are floating meetings, so they don't occur in one place. They occur in many places. It might be in the school district office. It might be in a certain part of an office. It might be in as I'm saying, different locations. So if it's camera dependent, that probably wouldn't be available as far as, the way that it would be available for council meeting, just because of the nature of the floating locations of those meetings.
Yeah, that's a good point. So a few workarounds available for that. You could easily bring a host device and do like a streamed meeting, like a Zoom meeting at that location. We also sell something, and it's not cheap, but it's called a portable encoder. And it's basically like a military grade hardened laptop that you can take anywhere on site. It doesn't require internet, so it can work offline. And then when you do have internet, it'll upload, or if you do have internet available on that location, it'll stream it live. But that does require the portable encoder. And I would say that the portable encoder is not, it's not really intended to be your daily driver every day. So using that instead of the standard encoder and then having the portability probably wouldn't be the best idea. So it'd be something you'd probably want to add on later.
I think the key comment was something you might want to add on later. I was just going to say that we have to walk before we can run, and we're making a lot of, if you were here for the whole meeting, Open Gov and all the other changes, this is another big change for us. So I think we can put a pin in that for the future.
One other workaround too that might make sense for those remote meetings that you're speaking about is through the interface, you do have the ability to manually upload those videos. So if you did want to record them another way on site, just to kind of, like you said, walk before you run, you could easily just upload those if you wanted to, right? And they would show up on the same view page. You'd still publish the agenda normally and all that stuff if you wanted to.
So you can record it off of an iPad or a phone and then just upload it.
That's right, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Good. All right. Anybody else?
Yes, we have Kate Laddish, if she can unmute herself.
Yeah. Go ahead, Kate.
Thanks, Mayor Cowan. Kate Laddish, 400 Market Street, number 21. And thanks to Granicus for this presentation. It sounds like there's some really interesting and exciting possibilities. And I second what everybody said about let's make Tracy's life as easy as possible while still getting all the information out there and making sure that everybody on the elected and appointed bodies, as well as members of the public, have the information. It'd be terrific to have the agendas, the packets, and the video just all available just in one line. I know the Yolo County Board of Supervisors has something like that, and it's very easy to use. I will say that is hosted right on the Yolo County website, so I don't know if it's I don't know if the information is stored elsewhere and then fed into it or how that goes. But I do like having the information available on the government website. And so it sounds like there's a way to have that happen. And since the information would be stored, if I understand correctly, it would be stored remotely within the Granicus system, I'd enjoy hearing what happens if say the city of Winters at some point ends the contract, or if Granicus ends the contract or something happens. So I just want to make sure that the city of Winters would still have possession of the agendas, the minutes, the video, all of that information. Thumbs up for anything that's going to increase ADA capabilities. And so I assume, but I figure I'll ask that the way that your information is available will work for people who use screen readers, and that the minutes are in a format that works with that. I know some minute formats don't work with screen readers. Some of the ones where the minutes are in a grid. So I just wanted to put that out there. A couple other quick things. One is that I think you mentioned that meeting attendees, if it's a virtual meeting, would be in something other than the Zoom meeting, and that as you've probably seen this evening, that sometimes in our meetings here in winter, sometimes we remember to click the digital raise hand, and sometimes we just start, moving around. And so I think if we had people in a digital situation where they're actually in a separate digital format and then have to be brought into the Zoom meeting, that's going to end up being a barrier to participation. And so I think if we can keep everybody within the same digital space, that would be great. And then I'm hoping that something like, for example, a recording of a Zoom meeting is what could be shared while we're all in this digital moment. I think the last question is the video recording indexed? And so, say again with the Yolo County Board of Supervisors, if you go to their agendas and after the meeting and when the video is posted, you can just go to watch the video on that agenda item. And so that's really useful. And so since it sounds like this has so many interesting digital bells and whistles, I thought I'd ask if that is one of them.
Excellent. So I've attended a lot of these city council meetings, and I just have to say that the public participation is very constructive, very useful. These are good questions. These are questions I get a lot from clients. So you did add quite a few, so hopefully my memory is good enough. I'll start off with the first one. I think it was what happens if we decide to cut and run, right? Is that the first one? So Granicus is providing the city with a annual contract to use our software. The data and everything belongs to the customer. So if the customer wants to leave, we will work with them to provide it in the best format that's like most useful for wherever they're migrating it to. Generally, it's pretty easy with this format. It's going to be, meetings, agendas, and videos. So we normally will just prepare that in whatever format is most useful, and then we'll turn around and upload it to an S3 drive so that it can be downloaded at their convenience. And there's no additional fee. So if the customer decides to terminate the contract, we get their data to them and work out a time frame and all that stuff. The second question I think was, I think there was a question in there about showing everything side by side, line to line, in terms of the agenda video minutes. Yeah, it'll definitely show up in that format. I know there was a question in there, I think it was the last one, about ADA compliance. Our packets are going to be ADA compliance, work really well with the screen reader because they're bookmarked. We do provide the agenda and the minutes in HTML format too, which most screen readers prefer as well. And that's an additional template that you can choose if you want to have it supplied that way as well. And so there's some choices involved in deployment where those options will be available. And I know I missed another question, so.
Let's see, it had to do with indexing the video.
Oh, yeah.
And if in a digital space, if people had to be in a separate.
Got it. Yep. There's two there. Okay. So the indexing that happens in the program live manager that we just did a brief run through, but all the agenda items are listed out. So clerk or secretary, whoever wants to run live manager, multiple people can run it doing different things. But we essentially just double click the agenda item title and it creates a timestamp using that title. So the timestamps are generated during the meeting, which is a lot better. There is a web-based interface to add them after the fact, but the live meeting is much, much easier. So, and then the question about, the digital space being in one place and stuff. Obviously with COVID, a lot of people are doing these video conference calls on various platforms. And a lot of them too, though, are starting to return where they're maybe having half of the chambers full. And so they're doing a hybrid model where they're doing both. We do have an extra add-on product. It's like a small add-on, but it allows people to sign up to speak on given agenda items. So obviously the public wouldn't sign up to speak for roll call or speak for the pledge or whatever. But other agenda items of interest can be opened up where people can either send comments in real time during the meeting, or they can request to speak ahead of time. And then an invitation would simply be sent out to join the Zoom call or whatever, and be on that side of the meeting, whereas some people may not want to interact through the video portal, but they may want to send in comments. And those comments are viewable within that iLegislate application that the council members have as well. So if that's something that council decide to open up, it'd be a really easy thing to bolt on.
Thanks. I just want to make sure I understand. I'm so sorry. So with the digital meeting, members of the public would be in a separate digital space until they are recognized to speak. Is that correct? Or
you can do that. A lot of people just do it ahead of the meeting. So people that want to join and participate in the meeting, they simply just let council know that that they would like to join the virtual meeting. And then the public just through the website would be able to access the other meeting. You do have the ability to publish the interactive meeting, so if you want people just to be able to sign on. I like this particular meeting that's going on right now is very different than a lot of other cities on Zoom. And so some people are not well behaved in some cities. So sometimes they don't want to publish that, or they want to password protect it, because obviously people can turn on their cameras and yeah.
Got it. Great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
Thank you, Kate. Is there any other public comment, Tracy?
Let's see here. Nope, doesn't look like it.
Okay. Well, if there isn't any other concerns or questions by the council, we could entertain the motion.
I'm still a little bit concerned about the cost of camera integration and, you know, whatever we would have to purchase that are hardwiring items, microphones and camera. Do we have a ballpark idea of how much that would be?
Yes, so in terms of you using the equipment that you already have, if you have an analog camera and analog audio, then a converter would be needed. And because I would recommend still getting the digital encoder, that way you're future-proof for later when there's like budget to upgrade or whatever. But you can get a converter that'll just convert it to the more modern feed. It obviously can't increase the quality, it'll remain at what it's at. But that converter, if you do need the analog to digital converter, probably be in the ballpark of anywhere from like $200 to $500 in that. And then if you needed to, if you have an SDI camera, which you might actually have unless your camera is like 10 or 15 years old, if that's the case, then you probably definitely need a converter. But if it's like, you know, 5 to 8 years old, there's chances are it could still be digital and maybe just not like a 1080p or something.
Man, it's hard not to make a joke about our camera right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're older than 5 years. Do you have any sense, Jesse, Cody, either one of you, on what decent cameras would be, and if we wanted to have like 2 cameras in the chambers rather than the one single one we got now?
Yeah, so a lot of people will do like the wide angle lens and just get the whole shot with one camera. That might actually, how many people actually sit like on the dais in a normal meeting? Or what's the max amount of seats on your dais?
7. There's 7.
7, I see people up to like 10 members getting away with like one high quality camera. So a high quality like PTZ camera or something like that, I think that they start around $1,000, and you can, with this kind of equipment, you can really spend whatever you want. So, you know, if you wanted to be really wasteful, you could spend like 30 grand on a camera system, but you could get away with probably $1,000 to $2,000 camera and have a good camera.
And if we got the camera, we don't need the converter?
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
And then in terms of, I mean, they're usually just ceiling mounted. And then in terms of the audio, most people just use their existing audio and then just use like an embedder, which takes the camera video and then the audio and embeds it onto the SDI interface. SDI kind of works like HDMI, where everything comes through one cord rather than multiple cords. So the existing system is usually just integrated in, and you may have a switcher too that will already do that for you. I don't know.
Okay.
We can certainly have like a follow-up call with whoever manages AV, or and we can talk about like specifics if you need that, but it shouldn't be a heavy lift.
Okay. We can get our AV person on it. Kelly, is that you?
I think that might be Tracy.
Uh-oh.
Sometimes it's just somebody with a camera phone that knows where the equipment's at, and I get on the other line and we look through the wires. So
maybe it's going to be Tracy and I. We can
And
certainly.
it sounded like Taylor knew more about it than any of us.
Another aspect of this, Mayor, is COVID-19. That could continue to have ramifications in terms of how, well, like this meeting, for your
Right. Right. And they did mention that they can pull it off of the Zoom meetings.
So if, Shelley, could we use any of the CARES Act funding to pay for some of this, to make it COVID related, to make meetings remote like this?
That's a possibility. That's a real good possibility. So, yes, I think we might be able to do some of it. I'm not sure how much of it, but I could do some research into that.
We do have a grants office that has been working with municipalities that have CARES Act funding, and they can walk you through any of it that you need. But all of the things that we've discussed today in this meeting have all qualified for CARES Act funding as far as like, can you appropriate it for this under the guideline? It's been more of a question of like, how much do you have left or whatever.
Yeah. That's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. If there's no other questions, then we can go back to, if anybody would like to make a motion. Mayor Pro Tem Biazzi.
Yeah, I move that we approve the proposal, and we move forward with the Granicus agenda management, video streaming service for future council meetings. That's, but pending the approval that we get, either our camera is compatible with this system with the converter, or we're able to find a way to purchase a camera that we can go with.
Councilmember New.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Tracy, would you do a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Anderson?
We're stressing it tonight. I'll vote yes.
Councilmember Lauren?
Yes.
Councilmember New?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Biazzi?
Yes.
And Mayor Cowan?
Yes. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much to the questions from the public. We had some good questions. Thank you, Taylor. Thank you, Kate. And thank you to both Jesse and Cody for being available tonight on relatively short notice to help us understand this better. So thank you for that. All right. We will move on to the city manager's report. But before I push on with the city manager's report, Jesse wanted to say a few words about the Get Out the Vote campaign.
All right. We're big voters and winners, and we want to talk about the ballot and the vote. So I just wanted to remind people that the vote by mail ballots have been sent out. I know I got mine today. And here's what you can do. You can pop that in the mail and it'll go right where it needs to go. It doesn't even need a stamp. It's first class 4. You can drive it over to our Lorenzo's, and Lorenzo's is open from 7 to 10 p.m. The ballot drop box is indoors, inside. It's not on the outside, so you have to go in. And our voter assistance center will be open for you to either drop off your ballot or vote in person, October 31st to November 2nd, 10 to 6. But it will also be open on election day from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And you can vote in person. Please wear a mask. And we look forward to having a great turnout this year in Winters.
All right. Thank you. City manager's report.
Yes, so just a few things. I sat in on a Caltrans Yolo County coordination meeting today, and we actually talked about the I-505 overpass pedestrian improvements. They stated that the ATP grant should be announced around the 15th of February, so we have a little bit of time before we're going to hear about that. And then we listened to a lot of projects in a lot of other places. The annual audit will be next week, so the auditors will be here starting Tuesday, probably be here through Friday. I also spoke to Don Saylor last week on Friday about potential use of county COVID funding that they've got available, and what I directed him to for winters, because they're going to use it in Woodland, Davis, and West Sac for the homeless, housing the homeless. But I really pushed that we needed to talk with our businesses, and we needed to find a way to help our businesses survive, especially now that it looks like it might start raining. Eating outside might be a little more problematic. So I've pushed Don to really start thinking about how he can assist our businesses in the downtown. We've got a lot of businesses that are really struggling right now, so I asked him to focus on that. Tracy and Crystal interviewed for new city clerk executive assistant to the city manager this week, and I've got a follow-up interview tomorrow afternoon. And something that Kate Laddish brought up, but I have been talking with Beth Thompson on the housing element and the public meeting and how we're going to make that work. And I'm I think we were planning on having it on the 10/20 agenda, because I needed to be educated on how to do that, because that's not something I've been that involved in the past. But she is making progress, and she's pulling stuff together, and she feels like we're in pretty good shape. But she has a plan for how to how to hold our public meetings and get public input without meeting. So she has a plan for that, and I will ask her to be prepared to talk about that on the 20th, because we have been working on it a little bit on how we're gonna manage to keep the public engaged when we can't bring them together in a room. And so that's something that she's been working on for us. So that's the big stuff that I've had this last week.
Okay. We're going to close the meeting tonight in honor of John Martin that passed away this past week. And I'm going to let Mayor Pro Tem Biazzi do that. He grew up with him and knew him real well. So Bill's going to have a few words to say about John Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'd just like to say, on behalf of the city, as well as myself and my family, we'd like to express our sincere condolences and acknowledge the contributions that John Martin, also known as Big John to most people around Winters, the contributions that he's had to our community over the years. He's been a lifelong Winters resident. He's been a very strong and active member of our community for years. He served on the city council in the 70s. He was also mayor of Winters, I think, in 1978 and 79. Served as a volunteer firefighter, and himself, along with a partner, Louis Montosa, started the company in town called Rtmp Trucking that many of you are familiar with. They've created hundreds and hundreds of jobs for people in Winters. So I just want to say, thank you to all that John has done for our city, the contributions that he has made, and again, express our sincere condolences to their families. Thank you.
Okay, with that, meeting's closed at 8:53. Thank you, Bill. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.